The world had grown loud in 30,000 years. Skyscrapers kissed the clouds, satellites filled the sky, and Earth's people marched on with confidence that they were the masters of their planet, the pinnacle of evolution. They had forgotten the stories carved in obsidian caves, the strange black metal buried under the Arctic ice, and the warnings etched in symbols no archaeologist could ever decode. Forgotten, until the sky cracked open. It happened on a Monday, because fate always picks the most ordinary days to change everything. At 2:14 p.m. GMT, every satellite above Earth shut down in perfect synchronization. No signal, no GPS, nothing. 23 seconds later, they saw it. A ship, if you could call it that. It was not sleek or beautiful like human sci-fi predicted. It was jagged, rusted, and humming with something primal. Some said it looked like a wounded animal, others like a ruined cathedral. Whatever it was, it moved like it had all the time in the universe. And it was descending, slowly, confidently, towards Earth. People didn't panic, not immediately. Governments tried to cover it up, scrambling for answers, declaring it a test, a glitch, a malfunction. But the ship didn't care about politics. It hovered over Greenland, over a forgotten glacier, and simply stopped moving. Then came the message. It wasn't broadcast on radio or hijacked through digital screens. It arrived through people. Thousands across the world suddenly collapsed into seizures, eyes rolling back, speaking in a language no human throat was made for. One voice, shared through many mouths, rasped into the world. This world harbors what is not yours. You built your civilization on what we left behind. We have returned, and we want our ship back. They called it the Voice. Within 12 hours, global panic exploded. Stock markets crashed, cities rioted. Greenland was declared off-limits by every major government. But of course, that only drew more attention. Journalists, scientists, mercenaries, truth-seekers, they all wanted to know what the hell the Voice meant. What ship? What technology? Was this humanity's first contact, or a claim of ownership? Dr. Lena Avasar had waited her entire life for something like this. A linguistic archaeologist turned conspiracy theorist, she'd been ridiculed out of academia for her theory that several ancient languages shared a hidden extraterrestrial root. Now people weren't laughing. They were begging her for answers. 30,000 years ago, she said on a global broadcast, an object crash-landed in the ice, not a meteor, something older, something built. Early humans found it and tried to worship it. That's where we get the sky god myths from the Paleolithic era. But eventually it was buried again, lost to time. Until now. The camera zoomed in on her tired, determined eyes. The Voice says we took something that wasn't ours. But what if we didn't just take it? What if we used it, used them, to evolve? That theory sparked the fire. If Lena was right, then everything about human progress, fire, tools, language, cities, might have been sparked by contact with alien technology. It wasn't evolution, it was inheritance, and now the owners were back. The United Nations formed an emergency coalition called the Artifact Council, made up of world leaders, scientists, and military strategists. Their job: figure out what the aliens wanted and whether humanity could or should give it back. The problem was, nobody knew exactly what the ship was. The one hovering in the sky was newer, maybe even a messenger, but the original ship, buried deep under the Greenland ice for millennia, was something else entirely. It powered cities. It solved hunger. It made weapons that turned deserts into glass in minutes. Humanity had taken pieces of it, reverse-engineered it, and built an entire generation of hidden technology from its secrets. Even the Council didn't know how far the corruption went. Governments kept secrets from each other. The artifact had become the skeleton key to global power. Giving it back would mean collapsing the very foundation of modern life. But the aliens didn't care. On day 4, a second message came, this time through seismic pulses felt across every tectonic plate. Return what is ours, or we will take it. And just like that, Earth was no longer home. It was the scene of a heist, and the owners had come back to collect. The Artifact Council convened in a secure bunker beneath Geneva, built during the Cold War, but now filled with trembling voices and heated arguments. The mood was grim. Half the world's leaders weren't even physically there, choosing instead to join through proxy screens that flickered and jittered, the electromagnetic fields around the alien vessel wreaking havoc on even the most hardened tech. General Elias Monroe stood at the head of the table, a retired American war hero turned head of Earth's united defense. His eyes were dark from sleepless nights, and his voice, though calm, carried the weight of unspoken dread. "They've given us a warning," he said, "but that wasn't a threat. It was a promise." Lena Avasar sat 2 seats away, her palms sweating. She wasn't a military strategist or a politician, but she was the only person in the room who seemed to understand the language, the culture, the intent behind the voice. "They're not bluffing," she said, leaning forward. "They didn't come here to negotiate. They've waited 30 millennia, and to them, that's probably nothing. You think they'll wait another week while we play nice and pretend we can control this?" President Sia of the Eastern Coalition narrowed her eyes. "Then what do you suggest? Hand them back the core of our civilization? Dismantle everything we've built in the last century? You want to go back to living in the dirt?" Lena shook her head. "I'm saying, if we don't talk to them, if we don't understand them, they'll do the dismantling for us." Then the power cut out. For 6 seconds, the entire planet went dark. Hospitals, airports, security grids, satellites, all of it, gone. Then, just as suddenly, it came back online. But in that brief window, something changed. In 12 cities across 6 continents, massive black pillars had appeared overnight. Unscannable, impossibly tall? No video footage showed how they arrived, but eyewitnesses claimed they grew out of the ground, as if planted like seeds long ago, waiting for a signal. The voice returned, not through seizures this time, but directly into every human mind. "The seeds remain. The debt remains. The ship is ours." Lena felt it like ice in her spine. The voice wasn't just words anymore. It was memory. Flashbacks poured into her head, visions of a time she'd never lived. Primitive humans crawling into the wreckage of a godlike vessel, touching glowing panels, seeing the stars for the first time. Fear, worship, curiosity, a silent agreement between species that spoke no common language. And then, betrayal. The humans had broken into the ship's heart, stripped it of its energy, killed what was left of the alien crew trapped in stasis. It wasn't inheritance, it was desecration. And now, the tomb's owners had returned. Back in Greenland, Operation Deep Lock, a top-secret excavation site built 2 decades ago, was now silent. No signal, no survivors. The council tried to send drones, all of them fried mid-air, some exploding as if repelled by an unseen force. Whatever lay beneath that glacier had awakened. Lena flew to the edge of the exclusion zone 2 days later, escorted by an elite UN task force. The cold bit through her coat, but it wasn't the weather that made her shiver. It was the feeling of being watched. The ship above hovered in dead silence. It hadn't moved in days, but it pulsed, like a second moon carved from steel and bone. As they approached the ice field, something cracked, a deep groan from beneath their feet. The ground rumbled. Soldiers raised their weapons. Lena barely had time to scream when the ice split open like glass and something massive emerged. Not a ship, not a building, a door, smooth, black, and ancient, covered in markings that danced when she looked at them. It wasn't just a structure. It was a message. The ship wasn't just buried here. It was the ground beneath them. They'd built an entire facility on top of a slumbering titan. And it had just begun to wake up. The air around the excavation site grew heavier with every heartbeat. It wasn't just the biting cold. It was something deeper, denser, like gravity itself had thickened. Lena's breath came in short bursts as the ground trembled under her boots. The enormous door continued to rise from beneath the ice, revealing more of its size, towering, ancient, and lined with symbols that seemed to flicker and twist of their own accord. Soldiers aimed their rifles, but there was nothing to shoot at. No enemy, no movement, only a presence, something vast, watching. Colonel Vex, the UN task force commander, barked orders into his comms. "We need to fall back. Now I don't want to be standing on this thing when it opens." "No," Lena said, stepping forward. "It's not here to hurt us. Not yet." Vex looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "You think that's a welcome mat?" She ignored him. Something about the symbols on the door called to her, not like a voice, but more like memory. They shifted as she approached, some of them forming patterns she recognized from ancient ruins she'd studied in Ethiopia, Peru, and Siberia. Always dismissed by mainstream scholars as coincidence. Lena had believed otherwise, and now, standing here, those wild theories no longer seemed so crazy. The symbols lit up as she drew closer. Lines pulsed outward from the door like ripples in water, running through the ice beneath her, illuminating the field in ghostly white light. Then came the sound. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't even auditory. It was inside their heads, a low vibration, like the purr of a sleeping beast stirring for the first time in eons. Every soldier flinched. A few dropped their weapons, hands to their ears even though there was nothing to hear. And then the voice returned. But this time it wasn't just in Lena's mind. It came from the door itself. Designated species, Homo sapiens. Unauthorized access of vessel core. Trespass protocol violated. Seeding protocol corrupted. Initiating reclamation process. A hiss echoed through the air. Panels on the door shifted, splitting into segments, revealing an opening. Narrow at first, then expanding. A mist poured out from inside. Not smoke, but something alive. It flowed like liquid shadow, snaking through the air, curling around their boots, whispering across the ice. "No one move!" Vex barked. But Lena moved. She stepped forward, drawn by the fog, by the strange warmth coming from within the door. Against all logic, her mind told her this was familiar, like stepping into a dream she'd had as a child, over and over again. And then she heard something behind her. Footsteps. Not human. Long, dragging, deliberate. The soldiers turned first, guns up, a line of red laser sights cutting through the mist, and then it stepped into view. It wasn't like the ship above. It wasn't a sleek alien with glassy skin or insect limbs. It was tall, humanoid in the worst way, like someone had tried to imitate a human body and failed. Its arms were too long, its neck too stiff, and its skin looked like old stone fused with metal. One eye glowed blue, the other was empty. The soldiers opened fire. Bullets punched into its chest and arms, sparks flew, chunks cracked off. But it didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. It raised its hand, 5 fingers sharp as blades, and flicked its wrist. Every soldier in a 30-meter radius collapsed instantly. No blood, no screaming, just gone. Vex hit the ground hard, clutching his chest like his lungs had stopped working. Lena screamed, running to him, but the creature turned its gaze on her and paused. That one glowing eye dimmed, pulsed, and changed color, deep violet. It tilted its head. Then it spoke, not with the voice but its own, low and rasping. "You remember," Lena froze. She didn't understand what he meant. The creature took a step toward her, then another. Each footfall echoed across the ice like thunder. It stopped just a few feet away. "You are not of the Makers, but you carry their echoes." I don't understand," she whispered. "You will." And then the ice split again, violently this time. A rift opened beneath the facility. The fog surged inward like it was returning home. More of them stepped out from the shadows. Dozens of tall, jagged, broken figures. Not an invasion force, a funeral procession. The ship was not just a machine, it was a tomb, and the dead were finally waking up. The air grew still, like the world itself was holding its breath. Lena stood frozen between the crumbling edges of the ice rift and the line of creatures emerging from the mist. They moved like memories, slow, deliberate, haunted. Their jagged forms whispered through the cold, each step echoing with sorrow more than threat. She felt no malice from them, only mourning. Behind her, Colonel Vex gasped back to life. He clutched at the frozen ground, dragging himself upright with a snarl of pain. What the hell are they?" Lena didn't answer. She couldn't. Her mind raced with the echoes still ringing inside her head. "You are not of the Makers, but you carry their echoes." What did that even mean? The lead figure, the one who'd spoken to her, stepped forward again. Its body was battered, fractured in places, its limbs reinforced with alien metal, like crude prosthetics. But it was its eye, the glowing violet lens, that held her attention. It didn't just see her. It recognized something in her. From behind, a soldier stirred, coughing up blood. His voice cracked as he tried to speak, but the figure raised a hand, and instantly the man calmed, unconscious within seconds. No violence, just silence, just sleep. Lena gathered her courage and stepped closer. "What are you?" she asked. The figure tilted its head. Its voice came again, rasping through broken vocal cords and layered tones. "We are the custodians. We were left behind. To sleep. To heal. You woke us before time was ready." "But we didn't know," she said. "We didn't even know you existed." He turned slowly, gesturing to the sky, to the massive vessel still hovering like a second moon. "They knew." She followed his gaze. "The voice," he nodded. "That is the archive. It is the memory of our kind. It speaks in the absence of the living. And it has judged your kind." A cold lump formed in Lena's throat. "Judged us for what?" "For taking what was not yours. For thriving off what you did not understand. For forgetting the dead, while using their bones to build your world." She swallowed hard, the truth cutting deeper than the wind. He was talking about the buried ship, the original vessel that had shaped early civilization. The technology humans had stolen, repurposed, glorified without ever knowing its true cost. "I didn't know we had done that," she whispered. "Most people didn't. That knowledge, it was buried, hidden by governments, by corporations. You can't hold all of humanity responsible for what a few powerful people did." The custodian's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his voice. Doubt, maybe, or pity. "You were children," he said. "Curious, reckless, dangerous, and now the ship wants to reclaim what it lost." Suddenly, the ground beneath the fractured ice groaned again. A massive circular hatch within the ice, nearly half a kilometer wide, began to twist open, revealing an impossible chamber beneath. Warm, glowing light spilled out from the depths. It looked like the inside of a living machine. Towers of silver bone rose from the earth, pulsing with power. Suspended in the center, hanging by threads of light, was something glowing, a core of blue and gold energy. Lena's knees nearly gave out. It was the heart of the buried ship. The source of everything humanity had reverse-engineered. Power grids, anti-gravity experiments, nanotechnology, even the first prototypes of human AI neural links. The seed of modern civilization. And the aliens had just reactivated it. Soldiers on the ridge screamed into radios. Drones tried to record the event, only to burn out mid-air. The entire planet was watching now, helpless to intervene. Then, without warning, the hovering alien ship in the sky began to descend. Slow at first, then faster. The clouds churned in unnatural spirals. Thunder crackled with no storm in sight. The voice echoed again, more powerful than ever. The reclamation begins. Surrender what was taken, or face extinction. Colonel Vex dragged himself beside Lena. Tell me we can negotiate. She didn't answer, because deep inside, she already knew the truth. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a reckoning, and humanity had no bargaining chips left. The world fractured not in physical space, but in certainty. Every nation tuned in, every screen lit up with the same image, a glowing rift in the Greenland ice, the heart of the ancient ship now exposed, and alien figures standing guard like solemn priests at a holy altar. The council scrambled, but their plans unraveled in real time. Nothing worked. No drone, no missile, no diplomacy. The alien ship descending from orbit didn't fire a weapon. It didn't need to. Its presence alone bent physics. Planes rerouted. Weather patterns shifted. Satellites scrambled to recalculate their positions. And across the world, devices built with black market fragments of alien tech sparked, shorted, or exploded entirely. It was like the ship was calling its pieces home. Back at the edge of the excavation, Lena Avasar stood trembling, trying to make sense of the chaos. The custodian, still unnamed, still watching her with that violet eye, spoke again. The vessel must be restored. Its purpose is not war, but if your kind resists, that purpose will adapt. What do you mean, restore? Lena asked. It's still here. It's always been here. He turned his head slightly. What remains is broken. What you took was scattered. You cut the flesh of a living being and wore it like armor. Lena's breath caught. Wait, you mean the ship is alive? He stepped aside, revealing the core, the swirling light suspended in the air like a captured sun. It is memory. It is thought. It is vessel. Your ancestors breached its mind, and its mind bled. From behind, Colonel Vex swore under his breath. So what, we give it back? Everything we built? Our satellites, our energy systems, our weapons? That would crash the planet. It may, the custodian said calmly, or it may heal you, but that choice is not yours anymore. Far above, the alien ship pulsed. A soft vibration spread outward, felt more than heard. Across the globe, machines began to whine, not explode, not collapse. They just paused, like they were listening. Then one by one they shut down. Hospitals switched to generators. Airports went dark. Military drones plummeted out of the sky, and in the homes of billions, screens flickered to black. Except for one line of text that burned into every display, every projection, every neural HUD. Reclamation initiated. Chaos followed. In the streets of every major city, panic erupted. Crowds stormed into stores, into government offices, into each other. But it wasn't just fear. It was rage. Rage that humanity had been lied to, that their entire world had been built on the back of a secret no one voted for, no one knew about, no one understood. And it was all unraveling. Inside the excavation site, Lena reached out toward the glowing core. You said it remembers. Can it hear me? The custodian did not move. It does not hear as you do, but it feels. and it knows you were the first to speak with respect. What do you want me to do? There is a path. You may choose to be the bridge or the spark. Lena blinked. The spark? If it rejects your kind, the custodian said softly, there will be fire. The message was clear. Lena could attempt to communicate with the ship, to mediate between the aliens and humanity. But if she failed, if the ship judged humanity unworthy, it would burn the Earth clean. Above them, the orbiting vessel shimmered as more structures unfolded from it, like wings opening or claws. It was preparing to land, or maybe to merge. Colonel Vex stepped forward, face pale and hard. If she tries this and it backfires, what happens to the rest of us? You cease, said the custodian without emotion. Lena stepped into the light. The warmth wrapped around her like a womb, thick and humming. Her mind swam. Images, sounds, entire lifetimes of knowledge pressed into her at once. She saw the original crash, 30,000 years ago. She saw the humans, barefoot, trembling, awestruck, dig into the wounded ship and steal from it without knowing what they'd done. She saw the stasis pods, the custodians, the failed awakenings, the pain, and then the voice of the ship. It was not words, it was grief, and it had waited so long. She opened her mouth and spoke. The light engulfed her, not burning, not blinding, just endless. Lena's body vanished into sensation, weightless and suspended in thought, as if her soul had been plucked from her flesh and dipped into memory itself. Time didn't exist here, only understanding and sorrow. The ship didn't speak like the custodian had. It remembered at her. It showed her the moment it had crashed, badly wounded during a great war that stretched across stars and species. A war humanity had never known about, one that ended in silence. The vessel had not come to Earth on purpose. It had fallen, broken and bleeding, its last crew entombed in frozen stasis chambers while its core slowed, hibernated, adapted. And then came the humans, primitive, curious, fearful. They crept into the ship's wounds and carved out its organs. They called its corridors gods, its lights holy. They desecrated the sleeping bodies, pulling fragments of bone and metal for trinkets and tools. They wrote myths in firelight about beings from the stars and never realized they were stealing from the dying. Lena cried. Not in her body was gone, but in her mind, herself. She felt the ship's grief, and guilt burned in her chest even though she hadn't been born yet. The pain wasn't directed at her. It wasn't about punishment. It was about the unbearable loss of being forgotten. I'm sorry, she whispered into the light. We didn't know. But the ship did not forgive. It only showed her more, how fragments of its tech had wormed their way into the roots of human civilization, how corporations, secret agencies, and rogue scientists had used its power without understanding its purpose. The ship hadn't been a weapon. It had been a seed, a vessel of knowledge meant to restart life after war. But humanity had used it like a toolbox, not a teacher. Then, it finally asked her a question, not in words, but in intention. Do your people deserve to keep what they stole? Lena wanted to scream, no. But she also thought of her brother in New Mumbai, who worked 2 jobs just to keep their mother alive. She thought of a little girl in Argentina who learned to walk again with synthetic limbs powered by micro-fragments of the ship's energy. She thought of entire cities powered by clean reactors based on stolen designs. Humanity had sinned, yes, but they'd also grown. Maybe not enough, maybe too slowly, but they had tried. And so she answered, we don't deserve it, but we need a chance to earn it. There was a pause. Not silence, a pause in time itself. The ship listened, Then, for the first time, it showed her something new. A memory not from the past, but from a possible future. A planet scorched by retaliation. Dead cities. Skies full of ash. And in the ruins, a small group of human children standing beside the custodians, learning, not stealing, learning the true nature of the stars. A fragile hope that something better could grow from the ashes. Lena awoke screaming. She was back in her body, collapsed on the ice. Vex was shouting her name, the custodian kneeling nearby, head bowed. The ship above still hovered, silent and glowing. "I spoke to it," she gasped, voice raw. "It showed me what it remembers, and what it's willing to forgive." Vex knelt beside her. "Did it give us a chance?" She looked to the custodian. He answered. "The archive pauses. It will not erase you. Yet." Yet, the word hung like a blade over the earth. Lena rose, trembling but upright. "It wants the world to make a choice, not the governments, the people. It's offering us something dangerous, a chance to share the technology the right way if we agree to dismantle every stolen fragment first." Vex's face went pale. "We're talking about reversing a century of development. That's suicide." "It's the only way to survive," she said. Above, the ship stopped descending. A light rippled from its base, visible across the globe, and every powered object built from alien tech froze. Not dead, not destroyed, just held. And then came the final message, etched into the sky itself in searing alien script. 7 days. 7 days to choose. 7 days before the ship decided whether Earth would be a partner or just another failed species. 7 days. The words branded into the sky didn't fade. They hovered like a countdown over Earth, seared into the clouds by forces no science could measure and no weapon could erase. People across every continent stared upward in silence, their lives paused, their systems frozen. Governments scrambled, military leaders barked. Tech corporations tried desperately to override the lockdown, gripping their stolen inventions. Nothing worked. The ship had seized its children, and the world began to fracture in panic. In Washington, riots exploded near Capitol Hill. In Beijing, officials enacted full lockdowns, fearing rebellion. Across Africa, Australia, South America, places where alien tech had brought clean water, safe energy, medical miracles, the shutdowns crippled entire communities overnight. Hospitals without synthetic energy cores began losing patients. Fields dependent on weather drones started to fail. The world that had become reliant on alien tools now staggered, helpless without them. And all the while, the clock ticked. 7 days. Lena sat in a bunker beneath the Geneva Council hub, surrounded by diplomats, scientists, and military minds who had stopped pretending they understood what was happening. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the ship again, its grief, its age, its cold indifference wearing the mask of divine judgment. "What's it waiting for?" Vex asked, pacing like a caged animal. "If it has the power to wipe us out, why give us a week?" Lena, voice hoarse, replied, "Because it doesn't want extinction. It wants obedience, or at least remorse." "Remorse won't bring back a century of infrastructure," snapped a diplomat from the African Union. "How do you explain to billions of people that they need to give up the very things that feed and heal them because we built it on the back of a cosmic corpse?" The room went silent. No one had an answer. Then, for the first time, Lena spoke clearly. "We don't give it back to them. We give it back to each other. Open source everything. No corporations, no military black sites. We create a global initiative, run by the people, for the people. Transparent, ethical, collaborative." Someone scoffed. "You think the nations of the world will just agree to that? Out of guilt?" "No," Lena said, "out of fear." And fear was spreading. In Siberia, A covert facility housing a hidden alien core tried to move the artifact underground. The moment they breached containment, the entire mountain collapsed. Not from an explosion, from molecular collapse. Matter simply stopped obeying gravity. 2,000 soldiers vanished into what one survivor described as a fold in space. In Brazil, a billionaire tech mogul refused to shut down his AI-enhanced drone program. Within minutes, every drone turned mid-flight and returned to his mansion. The house vanished from the grid. What was left behind was a crater full of black glass. The ship wasn't just watching. It was enforcing. By day 4, the world understood. You didn't get to negotiate with something that could rewrite physics. You obeyed, or you vanished. But obedience was not unity. Countries began turning on each other. Blame spread faster than any virus. Accusations flew. Who had stolen the most? Who had reverse-engineered the deepest? Who had profited while others starved? World War III didn't break out, not yet, but the air was thick with the promise of it. Until Lena stepped onto the world stage. With the help of the custodian, who now rarely left her side, she transmitted a live message through what little tech still functioned, hijacking public channels, civilian devices, even city walls that the ship's systems had claimed as communication nodes. Her face filled every screen on Earth. "This is not about aliens," she said. "This is about us." She paused, breath shaking. For 100 years we have used something we didn't understand, and we were warned. The symbols were there, the ruins, the signs, but we ignored them, because power makes people deaf. A pause. They don't want to destroy us, but they will. If we don't prove that we're more than parasites, that we can learn, that we can change. A flicker of light passed behind her. The custodian stood, silent and imposing. The ship gave us 7 days, not to surrender, but to become something worthy. And then she said the words that would either save the world or seal its end. "I will return the knowledge. I will give back everything we've taken, and I invite the world to do the same." A countdown appeared in the sky beneath the alien script. 3 days, 14 hours, 26 minutes. And it was ticking down. The countdown loomed like the edge of a blade. 3 days, then 2. Then hours slipped away like rain, and the world teetered on the lip of something irreversible. Across the globe, Lena's message stirred a wildfire of responses. Some nations listened, opened their vaults, released their archives. Engineers and coders, once shielded by government contracts, came forward with secret schematics of alien-derived tech. Underground labs burned their research. Drones dropped from the sky like dead birds, voluntarily deactivated by human hands. Others resisted. A coalition of holdout states, those with the most to lose, refused to dismantle their empires of power. They hoarded what they could, lied on global feeds, and made backdoor deals. One nation even launched a hidden missile at the ship overhead, hoping to blind its sensors. It never reached the clouds. It simply ceased to exist. People started calling it the Judgment Sky. Lena, meanwhile, had become something else entirely. Not a politician, not a prophet, but something more dangerous, a believer. She had tasted the grief of a species older than Earth's mountains. She had seen the ship's memories. And she understood now, this wasn't about justice, it wasn't about vengeance, it was about balance. The custodian stood by her at all times, his broken body humming with strange energy, guiding her like a shadow of fate. Together they worked with what remained of the Artifact Council to coordinate humanity's last plea for mercy. In Greenland, the chamber beneath the ice glowed brighter by the hour. The alien ship above, the Archive, had fully descended now, resting on a cushion of gravity just above the Earth, stretching like a massive metallic temple across the horizon. Some thought it beautiful. Others thought it looked like a tomb. As the final day arrived, Lena stood atop the main excavation platform, wind tearing through her coat, frost biting at her skin. The ice had begun to crack from the inside, subtle pulses of energy blooming beneath the surface like something breathing in its sleep. She turned to the custodian. "They won't all listen," he nodded once. That was known. "So what happens now?" He stared ahead. "Now, the archive chooses." Suddenly the ground beneath them pulsed, soft at first, then violent. All screens on Earth blinked to life again. No words this time, just a light, a beam that stretched from the archive down into the core chamber. The sky dimmed, and humanity held its breath. Lena stepped forward into the beam, unafraid now. The ship knew her. It had accepted her as its bridge, its witness, the last voice Earth would have. And then, within the beam, she vanished. The world panicked. Vex screamed her name over the comms. Soldiers scrambled for cover. The custodian simply bowed his head. Inside the beam, Lena floated. But it wasn't like before. This time she didn't see the past. She saw choices. Earth split into 1,000 futures, some green, some black, some wiped clean by fire. She saw a version where the archive erased every living thing. Another where it gifted humanity 1,000 years of peace, only to watch them destroy it all again. And in one, just one, she saw a slow, painful rebuilding. A world where knowledge was earned, not stolen, shared, not hoarded. That was the one she chose. She reached for it. And the ship, after 30,000 years, finally agreed. A tremor spread through the ice, but this time it didn't crack. It healed. Above, the archive pulsed a deep, low frequency, a sound every creature on Earth felt in their bones. And then the countdown disappeared. All over the world, technology began to hum again, not as it had before, but gentler, slower, like the archive was offering it back, piece by piece, under supervision. The sky cleared, the alien message faded, and Lena returned. She collapsed on the platform, breathing hard, eyes wide, frost in her lashes. Vex caught her before she fell. Is it over?" She looked up at the sky where the archive still hovered. But now it was rising. Slowly, with solemn grace. "No," she said, "it's not over, but we've been given time." A week later, the world declared a new era. The custodian left quietly, returning to the ice and disappearing into the core of the ship, his mission complete. Humanity began to rebuild, this time together. And high above Earth, the archive drifted into the dark once more, leaving behind a planet that now knew the cost of touching the stars without asking first. No one remembered when Earth stopped being a backwater planet. It just happened, quietly, slowly. A few trade deals, a couple of mercenaries hired out. Then suddenly the humans were everywhere, on stations, on freighters, in the command ranks of fringe armies. Nobody had feared them at first. They were considered quaint, emotional, loud, passionate, weak. Then came the Vindicator. The Vindicator wasn't just a ship. It was a floating monstrosity, built from the bones of a broken armada, forged in a gravity well where no other species dared to mine. It was stitched together from a dozen different technologies, half of them stolen, and the rest barely understood. The hull was made of neutron-bonded titanium ceramic, rumored to be scavenged from a dead star's crust. It carried no insignia, no flag, only a single phrase scorched into its armor in 27 languages. "We offered peace. You chose war." The first time it appeared, it didn't fire a shot. It just dropped into orbit above Eris Prime, a trade world run by the Vuldari Consortium, and sent a single signal. "Evacuate." The Voldari laughed. All 12 clans gathered their fleets, some 500 ships strong. They expected an easy win. Even as Vindicator held its position, silent and cold, they came in full force. Then the lights on the human warship flickered. No one knows what happened next exactly, because every Voldari ship's black box was wiped clean. But planetary sensors picked up a single, massive energy surge, the kind not even fusion drives could replicate. And in just 17 seconds, the entire Voldari fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. No wreckage. No debris. Just silence, like the stars themselves held their breath. That was the moment the galaxy realized they had made a mistake. Humans weren't just another species trying to claw their way up the interstellar ladder. They were a storm, and the Vindicator was their thunderclap. Over the next few months, the ship became legend. Whole governments surrendered the moment it entered their system. Pirate kings abandoned fortresses they'd ruled for decades. Alien warlords scrubbed their systems of anything remotely human, terrified of provoking its return. Captain Ilara Voss was the woman behind the legend, though no one really saw her face. She was never caught on any official records. No interviews, no transmissions, nothing. Just ghost stories passed between soldiers and smugglers. A human with cold eyes and a voice like ice water, who once whispered a command and caused a planet to shut down its power grid for 3 days without firing a single weapon. The ship moved in silence, always. It spoke only when necessary, and it never negotiated. Once the Vindicator set its course, surrender was the only option. Those who didn't were erased. There were whispers, of course, that the ship held a weapon banned by the Galactic Council, that it was powered by a captured singularity, that its crew were all dead, their minds uploaded into a hive AI that felt no mercy. No one knew the truth. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what the Vindicator could do. It was that the humans had built more than one. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far. After decades of ridicule, border raids, and betrayals, Earth had decided enough was enough. The Galactic Council tried to summon them for diplomacy, but the humans didn't respond. Not with words. They responded with a ship. Now the Council sat in quiet fear, each member looking to the stars and wondering if they'd be next. On a cold outer moon in the Kestran system, a small mining outpost picked up a signature they hoped they'd never see again, a human transponder code broadcasting from deep space. The code was old, obsolete, but it belonged to the Vindicator. The outpost commander, a graying Drexy named Vorlin Krax, stared at the transmission screen with his 3 eyes squinting. His tendrils twitched with unease. That transponder code, it was unmistakable. Human, yes, but not just any human ship. This was the one. The code had been locked in every council database, tagged with 17 separate threat markers. It hadn't been seen in over a cycle. Most had assumed the Vindicator had gone dark, or had been destroyed. But now it was moving. And it was heading straight toward Kestran Moon 4. He hit the emergency comms switch and tried to signal high command, his voice cracking with the effort to stay calm. "This is Krax. Mining Outpost 14. We have a code red contact. Human warship. Identification matches Vindicator. Repeat, Vindicator inbound." Silence, not even static. Then came a soft clicking noise, followed by a voice. Low, human, and impossibly calm. "Your transmission has been intercepted. You will not contact the Council. Evacuate now." Krax froze. That voice. It was a whisper, like someone was speaking directly into the back of his skull. His staff, all 7 species, stared at him, wide-eyed, motionless. They'd heard it too. "No weapons detected, no defenses activated. We are not here for you," the voice continued. But you are in our path. Leave within the next hour." Then the line went dead. Panic didn't break immediately. It cracked slowly, like glass under pressure. His crew whispered first. Then someone ran. Then a junior tech screamed and smashed the alarm. Klaxons blared and lights shifted to crimson. The outpost turned to chaos. Krax stood silently at the comm station, breathing heavily. The old Drexy was no coward, but he had fought in 2 border skirmishes and seen enough human tactics to know one thing. They didn't bluff. Especially not that ship. He barked at the remaining officers. "Scramble the transports. Get the miners out now. Don't take anything. Just go." "But the ore," someone began. "Leave it," Krax growled. "You think rocks are worth more than your life?" The ships launched in waves. Small haulers, old shuttles, anything that could get off the moon. They didn't wait to form ranks or check manifests. Just escape. An hour passed. Nothing happened. Then, from the black of space, the Vindicator emerged. It didn't jump in with the usual energy flash or warp distortion. It just appeared, like it had always been there, cloaked in darkness, waiting. Its silhouette eclipsed a good portion of the mining moon's upper horizon. Lights ran down its spine like a sleeping predator, each one pulsing slowly, rhythmically. The ship made no sound, but every being who looked at it felt something deep in their gut twist and turn. The outpost was empty now, save for Krax and his assistant, a young Joran named Thal. Thal refused to leave. "I have to see it," he'd said. "I need to know why they're feared." Now, watching the Vindicator settle into low orbit, Krax regretted letting him stay. The ship didn't fire. It didn't scan. It didn't even acknowledge them. Instead, it opened a single bay, massive and silent, and from it, a much smaller ship emerged. Sleek, sharp-edged, blacker than the void around it. Thal leaned forward. "Is that another warship?" "No," Krax muttered. "That's a message." The smaller craft descended, slow and steady. It landed precisely on the now empty mining pad outside the base. No landing gear. It just hovered inches above the surface and powered down. No lights, no entry ramp. Just stillness. Thal looked at Krax, who was already rising. "You're not seriously going out there?" "I want to see it too," Krax said grimly. They suited up and exited the station. The cold bit through even their thermals. The small craft stood like a monolith. No markings, no sound. Then, without a sound, the surface of the ship rippled. A small panel slid open, revealing a single item inside, a sealed case. Krax approached it slowly. The case was plain. Metal, human design. No locks. Inside, nestled in black foam, was a data crystal. Krax didn't touch it. Thal did. The moment his fingers brushed it, the ship behind them vanished. Not lifted off. Not cloaked. It simply wasn't there anymore. The data crystal pulsed once in Thal's hand. Krax stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. "What the hell did they just give us?" he whispered. Thal's face was pale. His voice shook. I think it's a list." Thal held the crystal like it was radioactive. His hands trembled, eyes locked on the pulsing glow at its center. Krax didn't speak. He didn't have to. Whatever was on that crystal, it wasn't just some standard message or a warning. Not from humans, not from that ship. They hurried back inside the outpost, silent as ghosts. The corridors echoed with their footsteps. All the miners were long gone, and the silence was making Krax itch under his carapace. It felt wrong. Like the station itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to scream. In the main comm room, Thal inserted the crystal into the data reader. The console hesitated, then flickered to life, overloaded with encrypted code far beyond anything Kestran tech could handle. But it wasn't encrypted to keep people out. It was encrypted to make sure someone specific saw it. After a few flickers and loud bursts of static, a projection emerged. A hologram. Human. Female. Ilara Voss. Even though neither of them had ever seen her, they both knew instantly. The coldness in her eyes wasn't something you could mistake. She didn't blink, didn't move. Just stared straight ahead, as if time had frozen for her alone. Then she spoke. "If you're seeing this, then the Vindicator has passed you by. Consider yourselves fortunate." Her voice was low and deliberate, like a calm before a storm. Every word was chosen like a weapon. "This is not a threat. It is a notice. You are now in possession of a council-sanctioned artifact, the Watch List." Thal leaned forward. "The what?" Krax's stomach sank. He knew that term. Old rumors, half-whispers from political offices and underground resistance channels. The Watch List wasn't real. It was a myth, a secret document listing every regime, fleet commander, warlord, or scientist deemed too dangerous, corrupt, or cruel by humanity's hidden authorities, too dangerous to coexist. "The list is not a demand for surrender," Ilara continued. "It's a final audit. Each name, each location, has been vetted by human intelligence, cross-referenced with 17 different species' war crime records, and double-confirmed by AI historical reconstructions." The projection changed. Dozens of names began to scroll. Species, homeworlds, fleet coordinates. Some Krax recognized instantly. Admiral Kareth of the Ulax fleet, known for purging refugee ships. Chancellor Brevin, who sold out his own citizens to an insectoid plague just to save face. Even members of the council itself appeared, their names glowing red. "This is not justice," Ilara said. "This is balance. You tipped it. We are correcting it." Krax stepped back, jaw tightening. "They're not negotiating. They're executing." Thal was pale, eyes wide as he watched the names keep scrolling. "There's hundreds of them." Ilara's voice took a darker tone now. "If your species is listed, your leadership will receive one warning, one chance. Evacuate your people. Dismantle your weapons. Cease expansion." The hologram flickered briefly, as if something far more monstrous was trying to bleed through the transmission. "If they do not," she said, "they'll disappear." Quietly, like the Vuldari. Krax felt his knees buckle slightly. This isn't war anymore. It's something else, something worse. Thal turned to him. "They're not trying to win a war. They're trying to end the game entirely." Then the feed paused. A soft beep, a blinking line at the bottom of the screen. New message incoming. Unlike the crystal feed, this one came in live. And it wasn't Ilara this time. It was another human, an old man, bald, no uniform, just a dark sweater and sunken eyes. He looked tired, worn. "My name is Tobias Ran. I used to be a diplomat. I tried to stop this. I failed." His voice cracked halfway through, and Krax felt something inside his chest tighten. "They pushed us, laughed at us, took what they wanted from our borders, told us we didn't belong among the stars. Then when we built the Vindicator, they screamed we were monsters." He leaned closer to the camera. "You taught us how to be cruel. You taught us what silence buys." The message ended. The console shut down completely. Power surged, then collapsed. Darkness swept through the comm room. Only the crystal remained glowing. Outside, the stars were still. No ships, no weapons, no signs of the Vindicator. Just the weight of a galaxy learning it had finally gone too far. The crystal still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat that wouldn't quit. Krax didn't move. Neither did Thal. For a long moment, both stood in silence, soaking in the cold dread that clung to the room like a second skin. The console was fried. completely dead. Even backup power refused to spark. Whatever the humans had done when they shut off the transmission, it was permanent. "Can we even send this to the council?" Thal finally asked, voice hoarse. Krax looked at him with tired, heavy eyes. "And tell them what? That the bogeyman is real? That the Vindicator handed us the execution list for the entire ruling elite?" Thal didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because there was no version of this where the council believed them or acted on it. They would bury it, like they buried everything else the humans tried to say before, and this time, the humans weren't going to talk again. They would act. Krax stepped forward, gently taking the crystal from the console. It was still warm. "We're not sending it to the council," he said. "We're delivering it, in person." Thal's eyes widened. "That's suicide. They'll kill the messenger just to keep this buried." "Maybe," Krax said. "But maybe if they see the truth before the sky burns, something changes. Just once." But deep down, Krax knew. The council wouldn't act. They never had. They thought their wealth, their fleets, their alliances would shield them. They hadn't understood humans were never playing the same game. And this wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was a reckoning. 2 jumps away, in a shadowed sector humans called the Dead Ark, Vindicator floated in silence. Inside its core, Captain Ilara Voss stood before a wall of projections, each name from the watch list displayed with full dossiers. Her expression never changed. Not at the details of genocide, not at the images of families burned in planetary strikes, not even at the weeping pleas of politicians recorded on secret channels. She had seen it all. Over and over, for years. This wasn't about revenge, that would be personal. This was about pattern recognition. She turned to her XO, a scarred man named Radek, once a field surgeon during the Earth-Kalari Wars. "Target status?" she asked. Radek nodded. 3 watchlist entries neutralized. 2 surrendered before contact. 1 entire fleet stood down after seeing our signature on long-range scan. Ilara nodded once. "And the moon?" "The Drexy retrieved the crystal, just like we planned. Our ship retracted without direct contact. Observers confirmed they found the transmission. And? They're headed to the council now." Ilara's eyes didn't blink. "Let them." The command deck of Vindicator wasn't like other ships. No flashing lights, no chatter, just silent efficiency. Half the crew were enhanced humans. The rest were something else. Men and women who had been broken by war, left behind by Earth's forgotten treaties, and brought back not for justice, but for purpose. The ship wasn't powered by any single drive system. It moved through space like thought, slipping between conventional engines and experimental tech harvested from a dozen fallen empires. It could appear anywhere, disappear instantly. Its systems read minds before orders were spoken. But its most dangerous weapon wasn't its guns. It was what it represented. Proof. Proof that humanity had evolved into something the galaxy had never prepared for. A species willing to do the unthinkable to stop the inevitable. "Next target?" Ilara asked, her voice calm. Radek tapped a command. A system appeared in red. 3 inhabited worlds, 1 orbital station, a private fleet owned by a Zolari trade lord known for slave colonies and funding border terrorism. Council protected. Ilara stared at the name glowing on the display. Sarix, the Bond Keeper. "Is he on the watch list?" Radek nodded. "3rd column, priority red." "Any children on those colonies?" "Not anymore. Moved them off planet last cycle. He knows we're coming." Ilara's jaw tightened. "Good. That means he'll understand why we don't stop." The lights dimmed. The Vindicator began its slow shift into jump phase, humming with quiet menace. At that same moment, across the stars, dozens of hidden human ships, sisters to Vindicator, smaller but just as lethal, received their silent signal. They activated. The list had started moving. And the galaxy? Still believed humans were a minor threat. That would change. Very soon. Council Hall always smelled like fear. But today, it reeked of something worse. Denial. Krax stood in the center of the chamber, hands behind his back, flanked by two silent guards who looked more ceremonial than protective. Thal was beside him, clutching the data crystal like a relic from a forgotten god. Around them, the semicircular hall buzzed with hushed voices, murmurs bleeding between languages. Every council member was present, 58 of them, seated on thrones of ego and comfort, staring down like judges at an execution. Above their heads, a giant holodisplay flickered with the opening frames of the watch list, paused and pixelated for dramatic effect. "Outlandish," hissed High Speaker Vereen, a silver-plated Altari with venom for a tongue. "Fabricated or worse, human propaganda. This is a threat to galactic order." "It's a warning," Krax said, voice echoing across the chamber. "One you've ignored before. Don't ignore it now." Several councilors scoffed. A Zentari general chuckled under his breath, but others were quieter. Eyes darted between names on the list. Some knew people there, some were on it. Thal stepped forward, timid but burning with urgency. "The humans aren't bluffing. We saw the ship. We saw the message. You're not at war with a faction. You're standing in front of a movement, and they've already started." High Speaker Vereen waved a hand. "The Drexy are known for exaggeration. You're miners, not diplomats. You saw a shadow and now you bring us fairy tales?" Krax's jaw tightened. "You think this is a game?" "No," came a quiet voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned. Councillor Juna of the Marax Collective, the oldest race on the council, stood slowly, her crystal skin shimmering under the light. "It's not a game," she said. "It's judgment." The room went still. "I've lived through 6 galactic uprisings," she continued. "I've seen species rise, fall, vanish, but I've never seen a race so methodical in their retaliation. The humans, they don't want territory. They don't want resources. They want balance, and that makes them far more dangerous." "You're defending them?" Vereen snapped. "No," Juna replied. "I'm respecting them." A silence followed, heavy as gravity. For a moment, it seemed like the council might actually listen. Then came the alarm. A piercing siren shattered the tension, followed by a rush of blue lights across the ceiling. A security officer ran into the chamber, face pale, panting from sprinting across the complex. "Emergency broadcast! Unverified attack in progress. Zolari trade fleets are gone. All 5 ships vaporized within standard orbit range of planet Rendox 2. No survivors." The chamber exploded with noise. Shouts, questions, accusations. Was it pirates? Rebellion? Human action? The officer nodded grimly. "Transponder logs confirm Vindicator signature detected 5 minutes before impact. No weapon discharge detected, just detonation. Total systems failure across all Zolari vessels." Krax stared into the chaos. "They're not waiting for you to debate anymore." Vereen turned on him, eyes wild. "You brought this upon us. You triggered them." "No," Thal said, stepping forward. "You did, years ago. You just didn't notice until now." Juna raised her voice again. "They're not just targeting war criminals. They're targeting silence, complicity, cowards." And then, over the entire chamber's emergency broadcast channel, a transmission interrupted every screen. It was Ilara Voss. No warning, no preamble, just her, standing against the shadows of her warship, eyes locked on every counselor through the feed. "You've been heard," she said, "and you've been weighed." She raised a single hand, and the hollow behind her showed a star system's tactical map, highlighting 5 other planets. 5 more names, 5 more lies to erase. Then the feed cut. Silence again. Real silence. Vareen sat back, sweat pooling under his armor. They wouldn't destroy entire systems. They don't need to, Krax said. They only need to destroy you. The council dissolved into chaos. Not the kind with yelling and dramatic exits. Something colder, sharper. Silent glances, whispered comms to private fleets, hidden signals to off-world bunkers. Every one of them knew what the message meant, even if they pretended otherwise. The humans weren't coming for war. They were coming for individuals. It wasn't about conquest. It was personal, precise, surgical. A purge, not a campaign. Krax watched them scatter like rats in a burning ship, and for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt something closer to grim satisfaction. The illusion of their power was cracking. Finally, Vareen leaned toward his console, sweat glistening on his metallic cheek plates. We'll authorize strike teams, anti-human protocols, hunt them down like vermin before they destabilize everything. Juna's voice cut in like a blade. You try to hunt them now and they'll burn every last trace of your name from the stars. No one argued, because she wasn't wrong. Across the edge of the Helix sector, a Zolari destroyer floated in low orbit above a luxury colony on Rendox 2, or it had. A few hours earlier, it was a gleaming symbol of Zolari influence, impenetrable, arrogant, armed to the teeth. Now it was a shell, a husk. The command bridge had melted from within, systems fried not by traditional EMP but a virus, a thought weapon, coded and broadcast through exotic radiation. No defense existed for it. No one knew how the humans had even discovered the technique. Bodies still sat in their chairs, unmoving. No burns, no wounds, just gone. Only the ship's Central A I had managed a final message before disintegration. One word: acknowledged. Back on Vindicator, Ilara Voss reviewed the fallout silently. No gloating, no celebration. Just quiet confirmation that another link in the chain had been broken. Report? She asked. Radek stood near her, arms crossed. 5 targets eliminated. 2 confirmed watch list. 1 was an opportunist, caught harboring the others. No civilian losses. We jammed orbital transport before entry. Council response? Scrambling fleets to protect their integrity, whatever that means. Some defectors already transmitting to us. Names? Radek handed her a datapad. You'll want to see the top of that list. Ilara read it, then smiled for the first time in weeks. Counselor Vareen's personal security chief had sent the message. It read, I was loyal. I stayed silent. He sold children to buy mining rights on Varast. I want to testify. I want to live. I have everything recorded. Please. I don't want to die for him. Ilara's smile vanished. She nodded to Radek. Send him the location of our relay station. Let's see how far loyalty runs when their thrones start to wobble. Radek hesitated. And when we're done? When the list is finished? Ilara looked out the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and quiet. Then we build a new list, she said. Krax and Thal left council space within the cycle. No goodbyes, no thank you. The council offered them nothing, no protection, no honors, no transportation, just a soft, you are dismissed, like they'd just been tools, pawns in a war the old powers still refused to understand. But that was fine. They had seen the truth, and now they had a new purpose. On board a rusted merchant freighter bound for neutral space, Thal finally broke the silence. You think we'll be safe? Krax didn't answer immediately. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out the crystal, still glowing, still warm. No, he said. But maybe we don't need to be safe anymore. Thal nodded slowly. Maybe we just need to be useful. Krax turned to the ship's console and opened a new channel. Encrypted. Hidden. Dangerous. He transmitted a message into the void. No names, no signatures, just coordinates. And one line, "We believe in the balance. Tell Captain Voss we want in." The reply came 6 hours later. No voice, no image, just a single line of text that appeared on their freighter's cracked console, written in the unmistakable cadence of someone who no longer spoke in politics, but in precision. Balance is earned, not claimed. Your trial begins at Arkin's grave. If you survive, we'll talk. Krax stared at it, his mandibles twitching slightly. Thal looked nervous already. "Arkin's grave?" he asked. "That's a dead system. No sun, no charts. It doesn't even show up on most nav maps." "Exactly why they use it," Krax muttered. They changed course immediately. No second guessing. Krax had already decided. This wasn't a plea for mercy anymore. It was a choice. Either sit back and let the galaxy decay like it always had, or become part of the cleansing fire that was coming. It wasn't morality anymore. It was survival on new terms. And maybe justice, just not the Council's version of it. Arkin's grave was worse than Thal imagined. No sun meant no warmth, no gravity wells, no time markers. Just an endless spread of shattered planets, broken moons, and ancient wreckage frozen in eternal drift. Dozens of ships floated lifelessly, their hulls rusted, torn, or melted by forgotten weapons. Some had markings from extinct species, others bore signs of recent violence. They floated in silence, lit only by the eerie glow of a collapsed gas giant that shimmered faintly in the distance. As their ship entered the field, proximity alarms went wild. Krax shut them off. "If they wanted us dead, we wouldn't have gotten this far." Thal tried to smile. Failed. A voice crackled through the comm system, feminine, sharp, filtered through distortion. "You are entering trial space. Coordinates received. Do not deviate. Do not transmit. You are now part of the test." "Test?" Thal whispered. Their course updated automatically. Their controls locked. Manual override failed. They weren't flying the ship anymore. The ship was flying them. The freighter twisted through asteroid fields tighter than any sane pilot would attempt. They skimmed wrecks that floated like ghosts just inches away. Some were split open with strange organic weapons, others punctured clean through with surgical precision. A graveyard, yes, but also a museum of vengeance. Then the ship stopped. No sound. Ahead of them hung a vessel, far smaller than Vindicator, but unmistakably human. Its name blinked slowly on their scanner. Judicator. Another one of the Phantom ships, sleek, matte black, with no visible propulsion system and no external weapons. "Docking permitted," said the voice. "Trial begins on contact." The docking clamp extended. Krax turned to Thal. "You sure about this?" Thal's hands trembled. "Number, but I think we passed the point of sure a while ago." They crossed the threshold together. Inside, it was cold. Not just temperature. Presence. The air itself felt thick, like grief. The lighting was low, and there were no crew visible. Just one long corridor leading into darkness, lit only by dim blue strips. Then a voice spoke. Not over the comms, but inside their minds. "Every planet has its secrets. Every empire has its graves. What makes humanity dangerous is that we dig them up." Krax shivered. He didn't know if it was AI or something worse. They walked. Along the corridor, projections lit up as they passed. Flashes of past atrocities, names from the watch list, images of children, scorched colonies, broken oaths. It was overwhelming. Not just to see, but to feel. As if the ship itself was forcing them to confront every consequence of their species' silence. Then they entered a chamber. Empty. No furniture. No screens. Just a single man standing in the center, middle-aged, unarmed, calm. You asked to be useful, he said. Then prove you understand what's at stake. Krax opened his mouth, but the man raised a hand. No speeches, no apologies, one question. He walked forward and stopped just feet from them. If you had the power to erase every corrupt leader, every war criminal, every trafficker and tyrant, without trial, without warning, just erase them, would you do it? Silence. Thal's voice cracked. That's murder. The man tilted his head. That's justice, if the law has failed. He turned to Krax. Well? Krax didn't hesitate. I would, he said, and I'd sleep better knowing they were gone. The man nodded once. Then maybe you're ready. A hatch opened behind him. 2 figures stepped through, human, armored, marked with the black emblem of Vindicator. No names, no ranks, just presence. You're not council informants, one of them said. You're survivors, survivors who stopped running. The man gestured to the hatch. Welcome to the grave path, he said. Next stop, a world that needs cleansing. Krax and Thal looked at each other and stepped through. The shuttle that carried them from Judicator to their first deployment was unlike anything Krax or Thal had ever flown in. It didn't hum. It didn't rattle. It moved like a ghost through space, utterly silent, as if reality itself bent politely around it. No visible propulsion, no controls. Just one narrow bench and the soft hum of hidden systems processing more data than most governments had access to. A small screen activated in front of them, displaying their mission. Target, Governor Trell Vorn, species, Nalkari location, Outpost 9, Junar Belt. Status, watch list verified crimes, slave trafficking, planetary resource theft, bombing of refugee convoys. Krax read the dossier in silence, his fists clenched so tightly the knuckles on his exoskin cracked audibly. Thal, however, looked ill. He's under council protection. That outpost is a stronghold. Was, corrected one of the black armored agents seated across from them. Her face was hidden behind her helmet, but her voice carried the sharpness of someone who had stopped caring about diplomacy long ago. The moment the watch list went active, he became a target. The council won't protect him now. They'll distance themselves. What's the play? Krax asked. She turned toward him slowly. We make an example. Outpost 9 was a fortress built into an asteroid so old it had no recorded name, just a numerical designation. It had shield cannons, long-range defense satellites, and a private security force trained by council-funded mercenaries. None of that mattered. The humans had already infiltrated its systems before the shuttle even arrived. Security feeds looped false footage. Sensor arrays fed fake telemetry. By the time the shuttle landed on a service dock disguised as a cargo vessel, the station didn't even realize its final guests had arrived. Inside, chaos was already blooming. Somehow, no one quite understood how, every civilian comm terminal in the outpost began flashing a simple, chilling message. Governor Trell Vorn, watchlist confirmed, balance imminent. People panicked. Guards rushed to the governor's chambers. By then, it was far too late. Krax, Thal, and 2 operatives moved through maintenance corridors with surgical precision, guided by the AI that lived within the human ship's network, a presence known only as Shade. It whispered directions directly into their minds. Turn left. Guards approaching, stun only. Vorn is 4 levels below. Elevator access compromised. Use shaft E77. Krax never asked how Shade knew. He just obeyed. When they reached the governor's private bunker, it was already unlocked. Vorn sat inside, pale and trembling, his once gold robes clutched in his fists like they might protect him from death. He knew who they were. I was just following trade policy, he stammered. You can't judge me like this. I'm protected. Council law. Thal stepped forward before Krax could. Council law is what let you sell children for minerals? Vorn tried to bolt. He didn't get far. The human agent raised her hand, and a pulse of dark energy wrapped around him, freezing his nervous system with microscopic precision. He didn't die. Not yet. Instead, he was paralyzed, conscious and awake as his entire databank of crimes, every message, every transaction, every bribe, was downloaded from his implant and broadcast back to the outpost's comm towers. The message reached billions, and just before the humans left, the final step came. They didn't kill him. They left him on the central plaza, shackled, branded, with one last message projected above him in bold human script. This is balance. The list is real. The reckoning has begun. By the time council forces arrived 3 hours later, Vindicator and its crew were already gone. Not a trace left behind, not even heat signatures. Just fear, just truth, just the growing realization that something old had awakened inside humanity. A willingness to do what others wouldn't, to clean up the galaxy by force, not to rule it, but to reset it. Back aboard the Judicator, Krax stood at the viewport, watching the stars shift around them. He wasn't a soldier, not really. Neither was Thal. But they were now part of something bigger, something irreversible, something righteous. Thal stepped beside him. "You think we'll ever go back?" Krax didn't look away from the stars. Back to what? Thal didn't answer. Because there was no back anymore, only forward. And ahead of them? The next name on the list.